A lot of horses, green fields and wonderful nature. Sandy beaches, dramatic cliffs and incredible bays. The only place in the whole of Europe which has never been part of the Roman Empire. This is Ireland and you're watching Hip World.
On my third day in Ireland, after a useful cooking lesson, I went to visit some real Irish craft makers, first in a pottery and after in the beautiful town of Kilkenny. On my fourth and last day, I visited the impressive Hook Lighthouse and the famous famine ship in Waterford. I then discovered some of the Irish roots from the past.
City flies. Oh, I am at one of the ponds here at Dunbody Country House Hotel. I have been summoned to pick some watercress. I'm going to have a cooking lesson with the famous Kevin Dundon, internationally renowned chef. Oh, hello. Are you going to help me pick some watercress? Hello. Hi, Kevin. Nice to meet you.
You got my message, so
I did.
But it's fantastic. I mean, look how fresh that is. I mean, it's just, that's what the beauty about good food is really just picking it up out of the ground, putting it onto the plate straight away. But you're my official first student to Dunbrody Cooking School.
Yes.
First thing we need to do is wash the watercress. This is going to be a fun salad, but the secret here is I'm not going to be cooking at all. You're going to be cooking. Always think about the presentation of your dish at the end. We're going to start by making some garlic crispies. We're going to brush this with a bit of garlic butter. Then we're going to put some pesto oil. I'm going to put the turbot in, I'll show you how to do it. And then you're going to follow by putting the scallops in. Always when you're putting it into a pan, put it away from you.
There we go.
And we're going to char grill some asparagus as well. That fish was just marinated in olive oil. And we're going to make a salsa now. It's only about 3 minutes either side to cook. You always remember that fish will always continue cooking even when you take it off. The secret is that you always keep that side straight so you don't cut your fingers off.
Yes. It's not going to be as fast, huh? I'm enjoying this. Oh, I think...
This is balsamic vinegar and olive oil. Just solid into the center of the plate. Just drizzle it over. Look at those, aren't they fantastic?
Oh, lovely.
But look at the design of
Gold.
those, and they taste wonderful. Always keep a tidy kitchen.
So you're putting honey?
Yeah, just because balsamic can be a bit sharp, so this will just kind of sweeten up the whole. The only thing we've left to do now is eat it.
Going north a few kilometers, I went to visit the famous Nick Moss Pottery, located in the little town of Bennett's Bridge.
During my cooking lesson with Kevin today, I noticed some really interesting pottery and I'm completely inspired now. And on the way to Kilkenny, which is where I'm off to next, I noticed a sign saying Nick Moss Pottery. So I've decided to have a look inside and see if I can buy anything for myself. making at the
What I'm
moment?
making at the moment is a bowl. What I'm doing here is I'm centering the clay, getting the base formed.
And how long does it take to make a bowl?
Well, it only takes a few seconds to actually make it at this stage. I'll turn it over and I'll put a foot on it. And then it will go on to be rubbed down. And then after rubbing down, it will be slicked. And then it will be dried.
I'm fully covered, all in.
All in.
All in.
Just get them moist.
How cold is that? Drowning!
No, don't worry
He's
about
dying! Ah, that's the magic.
that.
That's
The speed relates to
now
what
you
do.
tell me. That is what I call a bowl.
On average, it takes about 67 hand touches and a multitude of processes to create the average mug. Perhaps that is why the pottery appeals to people from all over the world.
I've just arrived in Kilkenny and I'm feeling very artistic, so I've decided to stop here at the Kilkenny Design Centre. There's a lot to see. When I mean everything, I mean everything.
The Kilkenny Design Centre is unique, both in ambience and style. Here, under one roof, you will find the very best of Irish design and workmanship, carefully chosen from over 200 studios and workshops around the country.
I'm standing right in the heart of Kilkenny. I'm leaning against Kilkenny Castle. Now, this castle was sold by the Duke of Ormond to Kilkenny for £50. Can you believe that? This seems to be a meeting point for everybody from all over the world, even for the Irish.
Kilkenny Castle was built by the Normans in the early 13th century on the site of Strongbow's original fort. It was built as a courtyard castle with 4 large round towers, 3 of which still survive. Kilkenny became the ecclesiastical capital of the Kingdom of Ossory in the late 12th century. The period of Norman construction from the 12th to the 14th centuries established Kilkenny as a centre of national importance. From 1642 to 1648, the Confederation of Kilkenny functioned as an independent parliament, representing the Irish and Anglo-Irish interest. Today, the city's rich cultural life is epitomised in its annual arts festival held every August.
There you are.
Yeah.
You came to my pub after all.
I was going to say, what's so secretive about the pub here?
Because it's called Kevin's Win.
It's also known as the dog house.
The dog.
And usually I'm always in the doghouse.
It's a dangerous spot.
Did you go to Kilkenny after?
Yes, I did. I had
How
a
was the
great day.
shopping?
Good.
That's a
Really
dangerous
good.
place.
Yeah.
It's hard to resist.
Exactly.
Definitely.
The story about this pub is very funny. My father has a pub at the end of his garden.
As well.
Yeah.
It's a
I don't-
It's a dun
It's a
dun thing, yeah.
thing. Okay.
And I always thought it was great. And there was a house here all along, and it was really old. So I decided to go out because we were having Emily's Christmas. And I started going out on Monday, and Emily was getting christened on Sunday.
Right.
And I was taking out the walls. It was all a wooden structure. And when I took all the walls in, I had the roof nicely balanced and everything else. And then it just went crash.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing. So it was very cool. So I did an SOS to our builder. I said, help! Good. So he arrived on Tuesday,
Yeah.
dropped what he was doing, and came up and built this from Tuesday, and we used it on Sunday. We had a barbecue outside, and we had 50 people in this bar
Really?
dancing.
Really?
No.
5-0.
No. Really?
Impossible.
Really?
It was like, did you ever see that Budweiser ad and the shack?
yes.
It was the exact
same
same.
one.
The exact same.
And do you use it all year round?
Not in the winter. We
Not in
use
the
it in
winter,
the summer,
okay.
and and a lovely summer's evening. It's
Yeah.
just gorgeous to sit outside, and you have the house behind you. The sun is setting, and it's just so nice and romantic.
Yes, and yes.
You need to put a kitchen on the back of it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Say it again. I keep forgetting.
Slante.
Schlante. Schlante.
It takes about 25 minutes from the hotel to reach the famous Hook Lighthouse, situated at the tip of a spectacular peninsula in the southwest of Arthurstown.
I'm standing on the very top of the famous Hook Lighthouse. It's the oldest working lighthouse in the Northern Europe. The Atlantic Ocean stretches out for miles. The view is beautiful. The sun is shining, the cliffs are just spectacular, and I feel like I'm flying!
From Hook Lighthouse, going north for about 40 minutes, you can reach the city of New Ross, where you can also find the famine ship anchored in its harbour.
I'm just about to board on Dunbrody famine ship, built in 1845 in Quebec, especially for the Graves family, who came from New Ross. Now, what's special about this place as well is the fact that the Kennedys boarded a similar ship to get across the Atlantic Ocean on a journey of hope. Let's go and see inside.
Permanently moored in the tiny port of New Ross, the famine ship was built as a reminder of the countless hungry Irish who sailed to America on ships like this. The Dunbrody is a full-scale reconstruction of a 19th century three-mast bark built in Quebec in 1845. Entire families camped out for 50 days on bunk beds no bigger than a king-sized mattress. Typically, boats like this would arrive in America with only 50% of their original human cargo, hence the nickname coffin ships. Once on board, you can also encounter a couple of grumpy passengers who tell vivid tales about life aboard.
I'm here with my husband David and my 5 children. We had no choice. The landlord now gave us the free passage, so we didn't have to pay our passage across. We don't want to go, but we have to. All my family is left in Ireland, and we've no one at all to go to in America. And all we have with us is 40 shillings.
How long is this trip going to take?
It's going to take about 50 to 70 days, depending on the weather, I believe.
Right, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very
Have
much.
a safe journey.
And you
Okay, and stay positive.
Oh yes.
Okay.
I have to for me 5
Absolutely.
children and my husband.
There you go.
Bye now, ma'am.
Bye-bye. What are you doing on the Don Brody ship?
I'm travelling to New York to meet up with my brother, my husband John, and my 2 children, Margaret and Michael. I can't wait to get off this ship now. It's been very depressing looking at these starving people, and that, and my children are quite annoyed and upset with it, you see. It cost us £25 for our cabin, which is a colossal amount of money, you see.
Right.
And really, I shouldn't have to watch these people at all. I'm not at all pleased with it, and I'll be talking to somebody on the other side about this, ma'am, I can assure you. I will not be mixing with those type of people. I have enough of this. I must attend to my children.
From New Ross crossing the bridge on the River Barrow, after a few minutes by car, I arrived at Whitechurch Village in order to visit the famous Kennedy homestead.
Can you see the American flag and the Irish flag? Well, I'm here at JFK's ancestral home and I'm about to meet Patrick. Who? You'll see. Patrick.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you? You're
Fine,
very welcome.
thank you.
I'll show you around my home and explain to you the history of the place.
This way?
Come with me, yeah.
So, Patrick, are you a Kennedy?
Yes. Well, my grandmother was a Kennedy. John F. Kennedy's father's great-grandfather actually left here in 1848 to go to America, and his name was Patrick Kennedy. It was a combination of his friend who had gone to Boston in the early 1840s. He went out to work with him as a cooper. The famine, the circumstance on the farm here, and there were tenant farmers, and they didn't own the land and they were paying too much rent to the landlord. So he went off to America for a better life. He went to Liverpool first, and then from Liverpool he went to Boston on the Washington Irvine. When he arrived in Boston, he got a job with his friend Michael Byrne. He worked in the cooperage. He married Michael's first cousin, Bridget Murphy, 6 months later. They started a family, had 5 children, and 10 years after he arrived in Boston, he died of cholera on the 22nd of November, 1858. His great-grandson was shot on that day. This building is here for the last 300 years, and there was 3 compartments to it. You had the barn for the storage of grain. He had an association with the cooperage. The family used to supply grain into the cooperage, and that's how he picked up the trade. And you had the stables for the workhorses down there, and the workmen lived on the loft. So when he went to America, he actually brought some money. He died 10 years after he arrived, and it was the next 2 generations that started the Kennedy Empire. His wife was, Bridget Murphy, his wife is really a remarkable lady. She was working in a grocery store, and she rented this grocery store when her husband died. And she also hairdressed in Jordan Marsh, which was an exclusive ladies' fashion house. And through her association with society ladies in Boston, she actually had her son educated where there was no Irish peasant immigrants educated. And he went to school until the age of 15, and then he went to work on the docks in Boston. And at 21, he started his first business, a saloon. At 27, he had 3 saloons. At 33, he was elected into local government. That's the start of the politics for the Kennedys. And then the next generation was Joe Kennedy and Rose Fitzgerald. Now, one of his daughters actually married in England in 1939. And this is the next contact the family had with the Kennedys from America. Kathleen Kennedy was living in Lismore Castle, County Waterford. She had married into the Devonshire family. Jack Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, was visiting his sister in Lismore Castle, and that's when he retraced his roots here to Dunganstown for the first time. He drove up the road, which you've experienced, not knowing if there's any cousins. Met my grandmother at the gate, and she didn't know who he was either. And like any grandson or great-grandson of an immigrant, he worked it out, told my grandmother how they were related, went back, heard of him again when he was elected president. And he arrived back here as president in 1963. Grandmother knew who he was when he arrived the next time. He used a helicopter to travel around Ireland. He got to all the major cities. He charmed the country. They treated him like a rock star. He came to Ireland. The media in America accused him of having a good time, which he was having a good time. He was entertaining the nation of Ireland, and he was being entertained himself. And before he left to go back to America, he said he'd be back in the springtime. But unfortunately, 5 months later, he was dead. And that struck a deep chord with the Irish people and Europe, the Irish people especially.
To visit the Irish National Heritage Park, I had an appointment with my guide Jimmy just at the park entrance. He immediately told me that we were entering a special place where Ireland's heritage comes alive with sights and sounds that shaped a country and helped to shape the world. I was very puzzled and curious. My guide also told me that in order to visit the park in the proper way, I had to step into a little hut functioning as a sort of time machine. Guys, I love this kind of mystery.
This is a dolmen, a Stone Age tomb built for the hierarchy of the Stone Age, who are mostly landowners and farmers. In the Stone Age, of course, no trucks, no lorries, no hoists. So to move these big stones over land, they used tree trunks as rollers, and that way then pushed over land, and to get the big stone on top, pushed it up along a ramp of stones, then everything was covered over with the ramp, and that was it, finished. Now Mona, a stone circle.
Wow.
A holy site. These were built during the Bronze Age to commemorate mostly the sun gods. A gathering area, a focal point for the community. Several times of the year they'd have meetings, gatherings. They were for rituals or ceremonies, but what the actual rituals were, what actually happened in a place like this is unknown. Right. Although we do know of the many gods, a very important god, the sun. And the entranceway we came through there marks the rising of the sun on Midsummer Day, the day the sun god is spending the longest time with them.
Right.
And these people worship outwardly to nature, to what they could see, like the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, the earth, and built to last, as you can see. This is called a rath, R-A-T-H. If you lived in this in Ireland 1,000, 2,000 years ago, this was your rath. It would be known as Rath Mona. You built it. And today, of course, it's 2,000 years or 1,000 years after they're built, they're gone. But areas still retain the names. And if you lived in this and you owned this over 1,000 years ago, you might have a town in Ireland named after you today, Rath Mona.
Oh, imagine.
There are so many towns in Ireland named Rathmichael, Rathjohn, and I have to say, I'm sorry Mona, but I don't know of any girls' names. It's all mostly men.
Oh dear.
Sure. But this is where the farmer lived, under the protection of a local king or chieftain. And his wealth was judged, as was judged by most people then, before coinage, by the amount, the cows you had, how many cows you had.
Right.
And because of their value, cattle raids were common. And hence the stockade.
Right.
Now, of course, you couldn't build this yourself, but you had slaves. You're a rich farmer. They built it for you. The Celtic cross, a very, very important part of any monastery, a holy area. They were decorated, they were coloured the way we see these here, and pictures on them, scenes from the Bible, and were used then to teach. Monasteries were holy areas, of course, in Ireland, but they were areas of learning. Monks went from here abroad to Italy even to teach the Gospels. The church was the holiest part of the monastery. This was a holy area. Outside was also a holy area. The sanctuary ground was the outside. Now I think it's time now to finish our journey. I'll take you. I have to go back to the future.
Oh,
So
yeah. And how am I supposed to go back anyway?
just close your eyes. Slow on, lad. No.
Unfortunately, I've come to the end of my trip here in Ireland. I hope to see you in the next episode of Hip World. City flies. Oh, I am at one of the ponds here at Dunbody Country House Hotel. I have been summoned to pick some watercress. I'm going to have a cooking lesson with the famous Kevin Dundon, internationally renowned chef. Oh, hello. Are you going to help me pick some watercress?
On average, it takes about 67 hand touches and a multitude of processes to create the average mug. Perhaps that is why the pottery appeals to people from all over the world.